Welcome back to USA Vintage Coin, the channel where history, mystery, and hidden treasure come together through America's most fascinating coins. Today, we're taking a deep journey through three incredible Lincoln Wheat Pennies: the 1940 Wheat Cent, the 1946 Wheat Cent, and the 1956 Denver Mint Wheat Cent. At first glance, these may look like ordinary old pennies, but each one carries a powerful story from a completely different era of American history. One survived the years leading into World War II, another was born right after the war ended, and the last one represents America's booming 1950s economy. These tiny copper coins witnessed some of the biggest moments in modern history. And believe it or not, some rare versions of these pennies can be worth far more than 1 cent today. So in this video, we'll carefully compare all three coins side by side, explore their designs, their mint marks, their historical background, their errors and rare varieties, and discover why collectors around the world still love Lincoln Wheat Pennies after all these years. And make sure you stay until the very end, because one of these coins could secretly be much rarer than most people realize. Now, let's begin our journey with the oldest coin in today's collection, the legendary 1940 Lincoln Wheat Penny. Now we arrive at the oldest coin in today's comparison, the beautiful 1940 Lincoln Wheat Penny. The moment we look at the front side of the coin, we immediately recognize one of the most iconic faces in American coin history: President Abraham Lincoln. Lincoln first appeared on the penny in 1909, making this the first regular U.S. coin to feature a real historical person. Before Lincoln, American coins usually showed symbolic figures like Lady Liberty. But in 1909, America honored Lincoln for the 100th anniversary of his birth, and by 1940, this design had already become deeply familiar to the American people. At the very top of the coin, we see the famous national motto, "In God We Trust," to the left side, "Liberty," and near the bottom, the year 1940. This particular coin has no mint mark visible under the date, which means it was produced at the Philadelphia Mint. Back in 1940, millions of Americans used coins like this every single day. People carried them in pockets, cash registers, small leather coin purses, and even hidden jars inside family homes. Now let's slowly examine Lincoln's portrait. Even though this coin is extremely small, the detail is still remarkable. You can see Lincoln's profile facing right, his forehead, his beard, his jacket, and the elegant simplicity of the design. The artist behind this portrait was Victor David Brenner. His initials, VDB, appear very tiny near the bottom edge of some Lincoln cents. Collectors still admire this portrait today because of its clean and timeless appearance. But what makes the 1940 penny especially fascinating is the world that existed when it was made. 1940 was a very tense and uncertain year. World War II had already begun in Europe. Countries across the world were entering conflict, although the United States had not officially entered the war yet. The atmosphere was filled with uncertainty. While soldiers prepared overseas, ordinary Americans still used coins exactly like this one during daily life. Imagine someone in 1940 buying a newspaper for just a few cents, or purchasing candy at a small corner store with this very penny. That's what makes old coins so special. They are tiny time machines. This coin may have passed through thousands of hands over the decades. Maybe a factory worker carried it during the Great Depression recovery. Or perhaps a young child used it to buy gum after school. Now let's turn the coin over to the reverse side. Here we see the classic wheat penny design. At the top, United States of America across the center, 1 cent above that, EPLURIBUSUNUM, and surrounding the sides, two elegant wheat stalks. These wheat ears symbolize America's agricultural strength and prosperity. That's why collectors today call these coins wheat pennies. This reverse design remained on the penny from 1909 until 1958, and many collectors believe it's one of the most beautiful penny designs ever created. The wheat stalks give the coin a warm and classic appearance that instantly feels historical. Now here's something very interesting. The 1940 penny was made primarily from copper. Its composition was about 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. That rich copper mixture gave these coins their beautiful reddish color when new, but over decades, many turned darker brown from oxidation and circulation. Collectors today often classify wheat pennies by color: red, red-brown, and brown. A fully red 1940 penny in excellent condition can be surprisingly valuable. Now let's talk about rarity. Most normal 1940 pennies are common because millions were produced. But condition changes everything. A heavily worn coin may only be worth a small amount, but sharp, shiny examples with strong detail can become highly collectible. And certain era coins are even more valuable. For example, some 1940 pennies show doubling in the lettering or date. Others may have off-center strikes, clipped planchets, or die cracks. These minting mistakes happened accidentally during production, and collectors love them because every error is unique. One especially interesting variety is the 1940 proof penny. Proof coins were specially made with extra care for collectors. They often have mirror-like surfaces and extremely sharp details. Finding a beautiful 1940 proof coin today can be very exciting for collectors. Now imagine the journey this penny has taken over more than 80 years. It survived changing governments, wars, economic booms, technological revolutions, and generations of Americans. This tiny coin existed before television became common, before the internet, before smartphones, and even before America entered World War II. That's incredible when you really think about it. And despite all those decades, many 1940 pennies still survive today. Some remain hidden in old jars, coin albums, or forgotten family collections. And every once in a while, someone discovers a rare high-grade example worth far more than expected. That's part of the excitement of coin collecting. You never truly know what hidden treasure may already be sitting in your pocket or drawer. Now let's compare the 1940 penny to modern coins for a moment. Today's pennies are mostly zinc with a thin copper coating, but older wheat pennies like this feel heavier and more solid. Many collectors prefer the classic copper composition because it gives the coins a richer historical character. Another interesting detail: during the 1940s, pennies had real purchasing power. 1 cent could actually buy things. Children could purchase candy, gum, or small snacks with only a few pennies. Today that sounds almost unbelievable. Inflation has changed the value of money dramatically over time. But coins like this remind us how different everyday life once was. And that's one reason Lincoln Wheat Pennies remain so beloved around the world. They connect history, art, economics, and storytelling into one tiny object. Before we move to the next coin, take one last close look at this 1940 wheat penny. The warm copper color, the classic wheat design, the portrait of Abraham Lincoln, and the powerful history surrounding its era. This isn't just a penny. It's a surviving piece of 1940 America. Now we move forward to another fascinating chapter in American history, the 1946 Lincoln Wheat Penny. At first glance, this coin may look very similar to the 1940 penny we just explored. We still see Abraham Lincoln proudly displayed on the front. At the top, "In God We Trust." To the left, "Liberty." And near the bottom, the year 1946. But despite the similar appearance, the world surrounding this coin had changed dramatically. Because 1946 was a historic year, World War II had just ended. Millions of soldiers were finally returning home. Families were reuniting after years of uncertainty and sacrifice. And America was entering an entirely new era. So this penny represents something powerful, the beginning of post-war America. Imagine the emotions people felt in 1946 after years of war rationing, fear, and global conflict. There was finally hope again. Factories that once produced military equipment now returned to consumer products. Communities began rebuilding normal life. And coins like this circulated during one of the most important transitions in American history. That alone makes the 1946 wheat penny incredibly special. Now let's carefully study the design. Lincoln's portrait remains elegant and familiar. The detail in the beard, the coat, and the profile still reflects Victor David Brenner's original artistic vision from 1909. If your coin has no mint mark, it came from Philadelphia. If there's a small D under the date, it was minted in Denver. And if there's an SA, that means San Francisco. Collectors often compare mint marks carefully because some mint locations produced fewer coins than others. Now let's flip the coin over. Once again, we see the beautiful wheat stalk reverse design. United States of America, 1 cent. EPLURIBUS UNUM, simple, balanced, and timeless. By 1946, Americans had already become emotionally connected to the wheat penny design. For many families, these coins represented stability during difficult times. Now here's something fascinating about the metal composition. During World War II, the U.S. Mint had experimented with steel pennies in 1943 because copper was needed for military supplies. That famous 1943 steel cent became one of the most recognizable coins in American history. But by 1946, the Mint had fully returned to copper-based pennies. So the 1946 wheat penny feels like a return to normal American life after wartime shortages. And collectors love that historical connection. The color of a well-preserved 1946 penny can still be stunning today. Bright red examples with minimal wear are especially desirable. Now let's discuss value and rarity. Most circulated 1946 pennies remain affordable, but high-grade uncirculated examples can become surprisingly valuable. Coins with sharp wheat lines, full luster, and minimal scratches are always more desirable. And then we have mint errors. Some 1946 pennies show doubled lettering, die breaks, or striking abnormalities. Collectors spend years searching for rare varieties because every error tells its own story from the minting process. Another important detail: 1946 pennies were produced in huge numbers because America's economy was expanding rapidly after the war. Commerce increased, businesses reopened, and coins were needed everywhere. That's why these pennies became such an important part of daily American life during the late 1940s. Imagine a returning soldier buying coffee with this penny, or a child using it at a movie theater candy stand. Every old coin carries invisible memories, and this coin represents one of the most emotional periods in American history, the return of peace. Now let's compare the feel of the 1946 penny to the 1940 version. Even though both are wheat pennies, many collectors feel post-war examples have their own personality. There's something symbolic about owning a coin made immediately after World War II ended. It connects directly to one of the greatest turning points in modern history, and that emotional connection adds meaning far beyond monetary value. Some collectors specifically build complete wheat penny sets from every year and mint mark combination. That means collecting Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco examples for each year. Completing a full wheat penny collection can take years. And that challenge is part of the fun. Now imagine how many people handled this exact coin over 80 years. Maybe it traveled through diners, gas stations, train stations, or movie theaters. Maybe it sat forgotten in an old jacket pocket for decades. And today, it has become a collectible historical artifact. That transformation from ordinary money to treasured collectible is truly fascinating. Before moving on to the final coin, take one more look at the 1946 wheat penny. It's more than copper and metal. It represents relief after war, hope for the future, and the beginning of a brand new American era. Now we arrive at the final coin in today's comparison, the 1956 Lincoln Wheat Penny. And this coin represents something completely different from the first two pennies we explored. The 1940 penny carried the tension of a world approaching war. The 1946 penny symbolized relief and rebuilding after World War II. But the 1956 penny belongs to a new America, an America filled with booming cities, television sets, classic automobiles, rock and roll music, and growing prosperity. By the mid-1950s, the United States was changing rapidly. Families were moving into suburban neighborhoods. Highways were expanding across the country, and modern American culture was beginning to take shape. And right in the middle of that exciting era, this tiny wheat penny was circulating through everyday life. Now let's carefully examine the front side of the coin. At the top, we once again see the famous American motto, "In God we trust," to the left, "Liberty," and near the bottom, the year 1956, but beside the date, we notice something important. The small letter D. That mint mark tells us this coin was struck at the Denver Mint. Collectors always pay close attention to mint marks because they reveal where a coin was produced. The Denver Mint played a huge role in producing coins for the growing American economy during the 1950s. And by 1956, America needed enormous amounts of coins for commerce. Stores, restaurants, gas stations, movie theaters, arcades, and vending machines all depended on coins like this every single day. Now look closely at Abraham Lincoln's portrait. Even after decades of production, the design still looks strong and elegant. Victor David Brenner's original portrait had truly stood the test of time. Lincoln's calm expression, his detailed beard, and the clean profile design gave the penny a timeless appearance. Many collectors believe the wheat penny portrait is one of the greatest coin portraits ever created. Now let's turn the coin over to the reverse side. Here we see the classic wheat stalk design once again. At the top, United States of America across the center, 1 cent above that, EPLURIBUSUNUM, and surrounding everything, the famous wheat ears. By 1956, this reverse design had already been used for nearly half a century. But interestingly, the wheat penny series was almost coming to an end. Only 2 years later, in 1959, the U.S. Mint replaced the wheat reverse with the Lincoln Memorial design. That means the 1956 D penny belongs to the final years of the legendary wheat cent era. And because of that, many collectors feel especially connected to late-date wheat pennies like this one. It's almost like the closing chapter of a long historical story. Now here's something fascinating about the 1956 D penny. It was produced in enormous numbers. The Denver Mint struck over 1 billion pennies in 1956 alone. That's an incredible amount. America's post-war economy was exploding with activity. Businesses were growing rapidly. Consumer culture was expanding, and coins were needed everywhere. Yet despite those huge production numbers, finding a truly beautiful high-grade 1956 D penny today is still exciting. Why? Because most of these coins circulated heavily, people spent them constantly. They rubbed against other coins in pockets and cash drawers. Over time, the surfaces became scratched and worn, so when collectors discover a sharp, bright red example with strong luster, it becomes highly desirable. Now let's talk about color and condition. Collectors usually categorize wheat pennies into 3 color groups: brown, red-brown, and red. A full red 1956 D penny that still looks almost new can be surprisingly valuable. The bright copper shine gives these coins an almost glowing appearance under light. And if the coin also has excellent detail, its value increases even more. Now let's discuss mint errors and rare varieties. One reason coin collecting is so exciting is because mistakes sometimes happen during production. And the 1956 D penny has several interesting varieties collectors search for. Some coins show repunched mint marks. Others display die cracks, off-center strikes, or unusual doubling in the lettering. These minting errors make coins unique. No 2 error coins are exactly alike. That's why collectors carefully inspect old wheat pennies using magnifying glasses and microscopes. Sometimes a tiny detail can completely change a coin's value. Now imagine the world when this penny was brand new in 1956. Elvis Presley was becoming famous. Television was transforming entertainment. Classic American cars filled the roads. Drive-in theaters and diners were everywhere. Children carried pennies like this to buy candy, soda, comic books, or baseball cards. Back then, a single cent still had real purchasing power. Today, that feels almost impossible to imagine. But in the 1950s, small amounts of money could still buy everyday items, and coins like this were an important part of daily life. Now here's another interesting fact. Many wheat pennies disappeared from circulation after 1959 when the Lincoln Memorial reverse replaced them. People started saving wheat pennies because they looked older and different from newer coins. That's one reason millions survived in jars, piggy banks, and family collections, even today. Some people still discover old wheat pennies hidden inside inherited coin boxes or forgotten containers. And occasionally, those discoveries include rare high-grade examples worth significant amounts of money. That possibility keeps the excitement of coin collecting alive. You never know when a simple-looking penny could turn out to be something special. Now let's compare all three coins from today's video side by side. The 1940 wheat penny represents pre-war America, a nation standing on the edge of global conflict. The 1946 wheat penny represents recovery, hope, and the beginning of peace after World War II. The 1956 wheat penny represents prosperity, modern culture, and the final golden years of the wheat cent design. Together, these three pennies tell an incredible story about America across nearly 2 decades of history. That's the true magic of coin collecting. Coins are not just money. They are miniature historical artifacts. They carry the fingerprints of past generations, the memories of everyday life, and the spirit of the era in which they were created. And somehow, all of that history fits inside one tiny copper cent. Before we finish today's comparison, take one last close look at the 1956 wheat penny. The warm copper tone, the classic wheat stalks, the Denver mint mark, and Abraham Lincoln's timeless portrait. This coin may only say 1 cent, but its historical value is far greater than that. So, which of these wheat pennies was your favorite? The historic 1940 penny, the post-war 1946 penny, or the final era 1956 wheat penny? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to like this video, subscribe to USA Vintage Coin, and turn on notifications so you never miss another journey through America's incredible coin history. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.